Kostas. Kostas, I said good. Nice to have you here. How was so far?
It's really interesting. I think it's my third time as a visitor, second time as a speaker. And it's really interesting because every year you get a sense of where the industry is going overall, and it's quite different every year. So I find it always very, very interesting, very thought-provoking.
So do you think that last year and this year, do we have some differences?
Yeah. I mean, last year it was all about VR and augmented reality and everything, and fintech. And this year there's a lot of, again, artificial intelligence, but in a really different way, and machine learning and how the industry is changing, and more strategy, less tools, and so on. So I think it's interesting how the market shifts, and it's a really good place to get the pulse of the market, because there are 200 speakers, so it's really one place where all ideas meet. It's really interesting.
So what did you came with? What was new from your side?
I actually, the last couple of years, I'm the Managing Director for a performance agency, ForestView, which is based in Greece, but we're running campaigns across a lot of different countries. And one of the things in the performance marketing space that has been really troubling us, and me personally over the last few years, is that there's too much talk about tools and automation and how you can use technology to simplify everything, and everything will be done by artificial intelligence. And our challenge is that all that is fine and useful as long as you have a strategy. So we're really focused on discussing and talking and working about communication strategies and very high level stuff. Then you need to start with having a very specific goal before you start using the tools. And I brought a case study of ours that really does that across from very different angles, but it starts with a very strategic thinking in the core of it. So,
what do you think that are the tools for a company to maintain in the market as a in the industry to be there and to be always on top of everything, because the things are changing very fast.
Yep.
And you need to concentrate and to focus every time, and you need to be there to make all the steps.
It is a challenge. I think there are two trends happening globally right now. One is companies that are specializing in very specific things. So there's always that, and it's not as pronounced as it used to be, because the second trend that we see globally is consolidation, and I think that comes from the client side, the advertiser side. The market became too fragmented and too specialized and too hard to manage, especially if you're trying to advertise your product. So a lot of companies are trying to now consolidate stuff and are really doing some sanity checks in terms of, do I need all these technologies? And on the flip side, a big part of the technology is being commoditized. A lot of things are being consolidated by Google in their own offering. A lot of things are being consolidated in Facebook in their own offering. So I think it goes back to traditional advertising basics, that you need to understand advertising, you need to understand strategy, and you need to understand people before you start using the tools.
But do you think that we need all these tools?
Yeah, one thing that surprises me, being relatively new in the advertising side.
Because you divide very much, your strategy. Yeah. You need to divide everything.
I find it strange that I'm working for an advertising agency and on the advertising side for the last 3 years. Before, my experience was as the advertiser, as the brand. The brands were always looking at it like that. So it was always, a universal view or a 360 view or an omni-channel view, whatever we want to call it this month. And it was always, return on advertising spend. It seems funny to me that, agencies are now having this revelation that, we need to consolidate and we need to talk about return on advertising spend. But that's what the client has been thinking like over the last 150 years. We're just rediscovering it now, so I think it's a return to sanity.
Yeah, but what do you think about the challenge of working the agencies with the client? Yeah. Because I think, that happened to me, that they have different opinions about strategy and communications in the market.
I think the key to that is to agree on the same value, on the same KPI. And it's usually creating clients, creating revenue that is sustainable. So once the agency and the client agree on that, the rest is simplified. And because, especially in terms of digital communication, the industry is actually becoming even more complicated, regardless of the consolidation of services under specific agencies, you still, it gets really hard, and it will continue to get harder for clients to actually do stuff by themselves. They'll need a specialist. It's just that they would rather not have 10 specialists doing a small chunk of the communication, but they would like to talk to one person or to one company that organizes everything, even if it's not in-house, even if they are orchestrating things. So it is a challenge. I mean, most of our efforts as a company is to keep educating ourselves and our staff, and to keep hiring people that are specialists in their field. But at the end of the day, you need a 360 view. You need a complete view of marketing in order to do it properly. So I guess we need to be thinking, regardless of whether you're the brand or the agency, we need to be thinking on the same way and talking about the same things.
What do you think it's the next, I don't want to say the next level, but what are the next step in this industry, in working with the agencies and the client? What do you think it's going to be?
Okay, so
Do you think they are going to specialize more?
No, I think it's clear that even though there will be more specialization, that the clients, that the brands expect that the agency will handle that complexity because it's become too big for them. So I think that battle is pretty much set. What I think will be the next two big things to happen rather quickly is, one is that artificial intelligence is now still kind of a gimmick, but I think there will be a pivot where we will switch from seeing it as an attractive technology to actually using it as a tool. So when we start thinking in terms of strategy again, suddenly AI will make a lot more sense, especially when we're talking about marketing technology or advertising technology. And the second thing that I see coming is that we used to talk about, media metrics like your cost per mille or your reach or your frequency. We have been aggressively switching to return on advertising spend over the last few years. I think the next switch, which again, it's pretty much a logical next step, will be incremental value. So if I wasn't advertising, if I wasn't spending this money, what would be the loss in terms of revenue? I think that's the next step that is coming, and artificial intelligence can actually help us measure that more reliably. So it's really exciting.
What do you use more, like platform?
Well, we use pretty much anything. ForestView is agnostic both in terms of the media we use and in terms of the tools we use. We keep switching tools from one to the next to get the best attribution possible and the best technology, let's say, environment possible. We're not actually using one single tool. Obviously, we're very dependent to the big ones like Google's tools or Facebook tools, or Taboola has also been really strategic for us over the last few years. But we are constantly either creating custom, let's say, not necessarily technologies, but methodologies by combining different technologies, or we keep auditing new stuff that come around, like Salesforce, for example, has really interesting solutions where we experiment with different things to see what actually works for us and our clients.
I've heard today, someone told me that they are using also Snapchat. Because they are trying to communicate with the younger audience, so that's the only platform where they can find them.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, if you think about
Do you encourage the clients to go there?
Yeah. I mean, we encourage the clients to go anywhere, whether it's digital or even if it's offline. It's fine as long as you can find your consumers, as long as you have something meaningful to say, and as long as you can measure it. It's game for us. And it's funny what you said, because if you think about it, how quickly this industry changes. A few years back, like 4 years back, Facebook was the place to find people. Then the young people, at least, then their mothers went into Facebook and they left. They went to.
They are now on Instagram.
Yeah, so they go to Instagram now, but their mothers are catching on because they have recipes to photograph and share with their friends. So now they go to Snapchat, anywhere where my mom isn't, because I want to express myself. So it's really funny. Yeah, chasing younger audiences is always fun.
I think they are giving the start. I think they are giving.
Yeah. I saw another interesting thing. For what you're saying, there's now actually companies advertising on video games because that's where you can get them, or esports because that's where you can get youngsters without their parents. You're not going to find a lot of 40-year-old mothers playing Fortnite, which is interesting to me. But yeah, I mean, I guess it will keep evolving.
Yeah, I hope we are keeping the, keep the rhythm with them,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
otherwise they're going so far and so fast
Yeah.
that you don't even catch them.
Yeah, exactly. I used to work on the video game industry, so I was very much in tune with that kind of audience. And you're right. I mean, they keep jumping from one point to the next, and I think there it goes back to strategy. You don't have to go to them. You just have to. And video gaming and putting advertisement on Fortnite, for example, is a good example. Instead of trying to find them and force your message and your branding to them, you can just, say, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, and they will flock to you. If you say something meaningful, they will come to you.
Thank you so much. It was very interesting. And I hope to have you next year also.
Yeah, probably. If Dragos will have me, I'll probably come next year as well, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. What? Yeah.